It was supposed to be the best night of my life. My name's Jake. I'm just a regular 18-year-old kid who finally finished high school. No more tests, no more homework, just freedom. And to celebrate, I threw a big graduation party in my backyard. Oh man, it was awesome. The music was so loud you could feel it in your chest, boom, boom, boom. My friends were laughing and dancing all over the place. We had pizza boxes stacked up high, like towers of cheesy goodness. There was pepperoni, cheese, and even some with extra sauce, my favorite. Everyone was having the time of their lives. Well, almost everyone. See, there was this one person who wasn't happy. She wasn't invited, and she didn't want to be. Her name was Karen. But not just any Karen, she was the HOA Karen. Do you know what an HOA is? It's like a group of grown ups who make rules for the neighborhood, like no loud noise or keep your grass short. And Karen? She acted like she was the boss of it all. She lived right next door to me, in a house with a big fence and a yard that always looked perfect. Too perfect, if you ask me. Karen was the kind of person who loved to peek over fences. She'd stand there with her nose all scrunched up, watching everything. If someone left a trash can out too long, bam, she'd yell about it. If a dog barked even once, pow, she'd complain. She walked around like she owned the whole street, not just her house. And me? I'd seen her plenty of times before. Every time I rode my bike or kicked a ball in the yard, I'd catch her staring out her window, her eyes all narrow and grumpy. It was like she didn't want anyone to have fun, especially not me. That night, though, was different. It was my night. My big moment. I'd worked so hard to finish school, staying up late to study, running to class when I forgot my books, even dealing with that one math teacher who never smiled. And now, I was done. My friends were there to cheer me on. My mom was there, too, smiling big and snapping pictures. She even made a cake chocolate with sprinkles. The backyard looked so cool. We had lights strung up in the trees, twinkling like little stars. The air smelled like summer grass, pizza, and a little bit of that smoky stuff from the barbecue my uncle brought over. The party started when the sun was still up. My buddy Mike showed up first. He's the funny one, always making jokes and doing goofy dances. "Jake, man, this is gonna be epic," he said, slapping me on the back. Then came Sarah, who brought a big speaker so we could play our favorite songs. After that, more and more friends rolled in, some from school, some from the soccer team, even a few kids I hadn't seen in forever. Pretty soon, the backyard was full. People were everywhere, eating, talking, tossing a football around. I stood there for a second, just looking at it all. This was my party. My night. Nothing could ruin it. Or so I thought. See, Karen didn't like noise. She didn't like fun. And she really didn't like me having a party right next to her perfect little house. I didn't notice her at first. I was too busy laughing with Mike and grabbing another slice of pizza. But then I saw it, movement behind her fence. Just a quick peek, like a shadow sliding by. I squinted, trying to figure it out. Was it a cat? No, too tall. Then I saw her eyes, two little glints staring right at me through the wooden slats. It was Karen. She was watching us. Watching me. My stomach did a tiny flip, but I shook it off. She's just nosy, I told myself. She'll go away. But she didn't go away. Nope. She stayed right there, peeking and glaring. I could almost feel her grumpiness floating over the fence like a big, dark cloud. My friends didn't notice. They were too busy having fun. Sarah cranked up the music, some song with a beat that made everyone jump around. Mike started doing this silly dance, flapping his arms like a chicken. Everyone laughed, even me. For a minute, I forgot about Karen. I grabbed a soda from the cooler, the cold can feeling good in my hand. I popped it open, fizz, and took a big sip. The party was perfect. Then the first car pulled up. It was my cousin Tim, rolling in with his loud engine rumbling. He parked right in front of my house, hopped out, and waved. "Yo, Jake. Congrats, man," he yelled. I waved back, grinning. But that's when I felt it again, those eyes. I turned, and there she was. Karen. She'd moved from the fence to her front porch now. She stood there with her arms crossed, her lips all tight like she'd just sucked on a lemon. She didn't say anything yet, but I knew she was mad. Really mad. More cars came after that. My friend Lisa pulled up with her little blue bug of a car. Then Joey and his brother showed up in their dad's truck. Each time a car parked, Karen's frown got bigger. I could see her tapping her foot, like she was counting every single noise we made. The music got louder. My friends got louder. And Karen? She looked like she was about to explode. I tried to ignore her. I really did. I turned back to the party and joined Mike in his goofy chicken dance. Sarah cheered us on, clapping her hands. My mom came out with more pizza hot and fresh from the oven. "You kids having fun?" she asked, her eyes all sparkly. "Yeah, Mom," I said, giving her a big hug. She laughed and went back inside to grab the cake. Everything was great. The lights twinkled, the music thumped, and my friends were the best. I thought, this is it. This is what I worked for. But Karen had other plans. Oh yeah, she wasn't just going to stand there and watch. She was going to do something. Something big. Something that would turn my perfect night into a total mess, or so she thought. See, what Karen didn't know was that this night wasn't going to go the way she wanted. Not even close. There was a secret waiting out there, something huge, and it was already sneaking closer. Closer to her. Closer to us. Closer to everything. Let me take you back a little. I'd lived next to Karen my whole life. Ever since I was a tiny kid, she'd been there, grumbling about stuff. When I was 5, I accidentally kicked a ball into her yard. She didn't give it back. She marched over and told my mom I was disrespectful. When I was 10, I rode my bike too fast down the street, and she yelled that I was a danger to everyone. And last summer, when I mowed our lawn, she complained it was too loud even though it was, like, noon on a Saturday. Karen was always mad about something. Always. So I guess I should have known she'd hate my party. But I didn't think she'd hate it this much. I mean, it was just a bunch of kids celebrating. We weren't breaking anything. We weren't fighting. We were just happy. But to Karen, happy was a crime. And she was about to make sure I paid for it. The sun went down, and the sky turned all purple and orange. The party got even better. My uncle fired up the barbecue, and soon the smell of burgers mixed with the pizza smell. Yum. My friends started a game of tag, running around the yard like little kids. I joined in, dodging Mike as he tried to tackle me. "You're too slow," I yelled, laughing. He chased me anyway, and we ended up falling over in the grass, cracking up. It was the best. But then I heard it, a little sound, sneaky and quiet. A creak. I sat up and looked over at Karen's house. Her back door had just opened. She stepped out, slow and careful, like a cat sneaking up on a mouse. She had something in her hand. I couldn't see it at first, just a shadow against the light from her porch. My heart started beating faster. What was she up to? Was she coming over here? Was she going to yell at us? I stood up, brushing grass off my jeans. Mike grabbed my arm. "Dude, what's wrong?" he asked. I pointed at Karen. He squinted, then shrugged. "She's just being weird. Forget her." But I couldn't forget her. Not now. Those eyes of hers, they were locked on me again. And that thing in her hand? It glinted a little in the light. Was it a phone? Yeah, it was a phone. She was holding it tight, like it was a weapon. That's when I knew. Karen wasn't just grumpy. She wasn't just nosy. She was about to start trouble, big trouble. And me? I had no idea how big it was going to get. But here's the thing, Karen didn't know something either. She didn't know that this night, my night, had a surprise waiting. A surprise she'd never see coming. It was out there, hiding in the dark, creeping closer every second. And when it hit, oh man, it was going to change everything. So there I was, standing in my backyard, pizza in one hand, soda in the other, friends all around me. The music was blasting, the lights were shining, and the party was perfect. But Karen was watching. Karen was waiting. And something big was coming. What was it? Well, you'll just have to keep listening to find out. Because this story? It's only getting started. Alright, let's dive into the setting the conflict and tension section. I'm going to stretch it out to over 9,000 words with super simple, easy English that any 4th or 6th grader can understand. I'll keep it exciting, full of little details, and build up that tension so you're dying to know what happens next. Picture me telling you this like we're best buddies, and I'm making sure you feel every moment. Here we go. Setting the conflict and tension. The party was in full swing when it all started. My backyard was buzzing like a beehive. The music was loud, boom, 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 shaking the ground a little. My friends were everywhere, laughing and shouting and having the best time ever. We were eating pizza like it was a contest who could grab the most slices. Me, Mike, Sarah, and a bunch of others were all stuffed with cheesy goodness. The air smelled like pepperoni and summer night, and the little lights in the trees twinkled like stars. It was my graduation party, and I was on top of the world. But then, out of nowhere, I heard it. A loud humph. It came from over the fence Karen's side. You know Karen, right? The HOA lady who lived next door. She was always grumpy, always watching, always ready to ruin someone's day. That humph was sharp, like a bark from a tiny, angry dog. I stopped chewing my pizza for a second and looked over. I couldn't see her yet, just the tall wooden fence between our yards, but I knew it was her. My buddy Mike was next to me, holding a soda. He heard it too, but he just laughed. Man, that's just Karen being Karen, he said, his voice all goofy. She's probably mad we didn't invite her. I tried to laugh with him. Mike was my best friend. He was tall and skinny with messy hair, and he always knew how to make me smile. Yeah, right, I said, taking a big sip of my soda. Like she'd want to dance with us. We both cracked up, picturing Karen in her fuzzy slippers trying to boogie. But deep down, I wasn't so sure it was funny. That humph didn't sound like nothing. It sounded like the start of something. Something bad. I peeked at the fence again, and I swear I saw it move a tiny bit, like someone was standing there, watching us. The party kept going. Sarah turned the music up even louder, some song with a fast beat that made everyone jump around. My cousin Tim was tossing a football with Joey, and they were yelling every time someone caught it. Nice one, Tim shouted, his voice echoing. My mom poked her head out the back door, holding a big tray of cookies she'd just baked. You kids okay out here? She called, smiling big. Yeah, Mom, I yelled back. She winked and went back inside. Everything was perfect. Or it should have been. Then came the banging. Loud, hard bangs like someone hitting a door with a hammer. Boom. 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 It was coming from Karen's house. She was slamming her back door over and over, so loud it cut through the music. My heart jumped a little. I turned to look, and this time I saw her shadow, tall and thin, moving fast behind the fence. She wasn't just peeking now. She was mad. Really mad. Mike nudged me with his elbow. Dude, ignore her, he said, grinning. She's just jealous she's not eating pizza with us. He stuffed a big bite in his mouth and chewed loud, like he was showing off. But I couldn't ignore her. That banging wasn't normal. It was like she wanted us to know she was there, like she was sending us a message. Stop having fun, it said. Stop being loud. I put my pizza down on a paper plate and wiped my hands on my jeans. My eyes stayed on that fence. The banging stopped for a second, and it got quiet, too quiet. My friends didn't seem to care. Sarah was singing along to the song, her voice all high and happy. Tim and Joey kept tossing the football, laughing when it flew too far and landed in the bushes. But me? I felt something weird in my stomach. Like a knot. Like trouble was coming. I remembered all the times Karen had been mean before. Like when I was little, and my ball went over her fence. She didn't give it back, she yelled at me instead. Or when I rode my bike too fast, and she told my mom I was a wild kid. She was always like that, grumpy, bossy, ready to tell everyone what to do. And now? Now she was slamming her door because we were having fun. I didn't get it. Why couldn't she just leave us alone? It was my party. My big night. I'd finished high school, and this was my reward. I deserved this. The banging started again, boom, boom, boom. This time, my friends noticed. Sarah stopped singing and looked over. "What's her problem?" she asked, her eyebrows all scrunched up. Joey caught the football and held it tight, staring at the fence. "She's nuts," he said, shaking his head. Mike just laughed again. "She's gonna tire herself out," he said. "Let her bang all she wants." But I didn't laugh this time. I stood there, watching, waiting. That knot in my stomach got tighter. Then it got worse. Around 9 p.m., the sky was all dark, and the party was louder than ever. We turned on more lights, big ones my uncle brought, so the yard looked like a carnival. My friends were dancing and shouting, and someone started a water balloon fight. Splash! Splash! Wet balloons flew everywhere, and everyone was screaming and laughing. I got hit in the back, cold water soaked my shirt, and I turned to see Mike grinning at me. "Gotcha," he yelled. I grabbed a balloon and threw it back, missing him by a mile. We were having a blast. But then I saw her. Karen. She didn't just stay behind the fence this time. Nope. She marched right out her back door, and I mean marched. She was wearing fuzzy pink slippers that looked silly, and a big, fluffy bathrobe tied tight around her waist. Her hair was all messy, like she'd just woken up, but her face? Oh man, her face was red like a tomato ready to pop. She had her phone in her hand, gripping it so hard her knuckles were white. She stopped right at the edge of her yard, where the fence met the grass, and she stared at us. No, not at us, at me. "I've had enough," she shouted. Her voice was loud and sharp, cutting through all the noise. My friends froze. The water balloons stopped flying. The music kept playing, but it felt far away now. Everyone turned to look at her. Karen pointed her finger at me, her eyes all narrow and mean. "You kids are too loud," she yelled. "I can't take it anymore. I'm calling 911 right now." She held up her phone like it was a trophy, waving it in the air. My heart sank. It felt like it dropped right into my sneakers. The police? On my graduation night? No way. This was supposed to be my big moment, my happy time, and now she was going to ruin it? I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. My friends groaned loud. "Oh, come on," Sarah said, throwing her hands up. "She's crazy." Joey kicked the grass and muttered, "What a jerk." Mike crossed his arms and smirked. "She won't do it," he whispered to me. "She's just bluffing." But she wasn't bluffing. Karen pressed buttons on her phone, beep, 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 and put it to her ear. She smirked at me, her lips curling up like she'd already won. "Hello, police," she said, loud enough for us to hear. "Yes, I need help. There's a noisy party next door, and it's out of control." My chest got tight. I could feel my heartbeat going fast, thump, thump, thump. I just stood there, staring at her, my pizza forgotten on the plate. My perfect night was slipping away. My mom came running out of the house. She must have heard Karen yelling. "What's going on?" she asked, looking from me to Karen. Her apron was still on, all covered in flour from the cookies. She walked over to the fence, her hands on her hips. "Karen, please," she said, her voice nice but firm. "It's Jake's graduation party. They're just having fun. Can't you let it go this once?" She smiled, trying to be friendly. But Karen didn't care. She shook her head hard, her messy hair bouncing. "No," she snapped. "They're too loud, and I'm sick of it. I'm calling the cops, and that's that." My mom's smile faded. She looked at me, her eyes all worried. I shrugged, like, what can I do? My friends started whispering to each other. "She's really doing it," Sarah said, her voice low. "What a mean lady," Joey added. Mike leaned close to me. "Don't worry, man," he said. "Even if the cops come, they'll see it's just a party. She's the one who looks dumb." I nodded, but I didn't feel better. Karen was still on the phone, talking fast. "Yes, send someone now," she said. "It's an emergency." An emergency? Seriously? It was just music and laughter and water balloons. I wanted to yell at her, tell her to stop, but my throat felt all dry. I looked around at my party, my friends, the lights, the pizza boxes. This was my night, and she was trying to take it away. Why? Why did she hate me so much? I didn't get it. But that smirk on her face, it made me mad. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd ruined everything. But here's the thing, she didn't know something. Nope. Karen thought she was so smart, calling 911 like that. She thought she was in charge, like always. But she just stepped into her own trap. Oh yeah, something was coming. Something she didn't expect. I didn't know it yet either, but I could feel it like a little tickle in the back of my mind. Trouble was brewing, and not just for me. For her. The music kept playing, but it sounded different now, far away, like it was underwater. My friends went back to talking, but they kept sneaking looks at Karen. She stood there, phone still to her ear, nodding like she was proud of herself. My mom sighed and walked back inside, shaking her head. I picked up my soda can, but it was warm now. Yuck. I set it down and crossed my arms, watching Karen. What would you do if someone tried to ruin your party? Would you yell? Would you run? Me, I just waited. Because something told me this wasn't over. Karen finished her call and shoved her phone in her bathrobe pocket. She glared at me one more time, her eyes like little lasers. You'll see, she said, her voice all smug. The police will shut this down, and you'll learn to be quiet. Then she turned and marched back to her house, her slippers slapping the ground, slap, slap, slap. The door slammed behind her, boom, and she was gone. For a second, it was quiet again. Just the music and the crickets chirping. Mike clapped me on the shoulder. She's full of hot air, he said. Nothing's gonna happen. Sarah nodded. Yeah, Jake, don't let her get to you. This party rocks. They were trying to cheer me up, and I smiled a little. Thanks, guys, I said. But that knot in my stomach? It was still there. I couldn't shake it. Karen had called the cops. What if they really came? What if they made us stop? My big night, my graduation celebration, it'd all be over. I walked over to the picnic table and sat down, resting my chin in my hands. The party kept going around me. Tim threw a water balloon at Joey, and it splashed all over his shirt. Hey! Joey yelled, laughing. Sarah started dancing again, pulling Mike with her. They twirled around, looking silly but happy. I wanted to join them. I really did. But my eyes kept going back to Karen's house. Her lights were on now, bright yellow squares in the dark. What was she doing in there? Smiling to herself? Laughing at me? I didn't know. The clock on my phone said 9:15. Only a few minutes had passed, but it felt like forever. I kept waiting for sirens, those loud wails you hear when police are coming. Every little sound made me jump. Was that a car? Nope, just my uncle moving the barbecue. Was that a siren? Nope, just Sarah singing off key. My friends didn't seem worried, but I was. I couldn't help it. Karen had planted a big, ugly seed of worry in my head, and it was growing fast. Then I thought about something. What if the cops did come? What would they say? Would they tell us to turn off the music? Make everyone go home? I pictured it, red and blue lights flashing, officers walking into my yard, my friends grabbing their stuff and leaving. My mom would be so upset. I'd be so embarrassed. All because of Karen. That made me mad again. She had no right to do this. It was just a party. A party for me, because I'd worked hard and finished school. Why couldn't she let me have this? I stood up and paced around a little, kicking at the grass. Mike saw me and ran over. Dude, chill out, he said, grabbing my arm. She's not gonna ruin anything. Look at this. He waved his hand at the party friends laughing, lights shining, food everywhere. This is awesome, and she's just a grumpy old lady. Forget her. I took a deep breath and nodded. Yeah, okay, I said. He was right. I didn't want to let her win. Not yet. But then I heard something, a rustle, like leaves moving. I looked over at the fence again. Nothing. Just shadows. Or was it? My eyes squinted, trying to see. Was Karen back? Was she watching us again? I couldn't tell. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. Something was off. Something was coming. I didn't know what, But I could feel it like when you know a storm's about to hit, even if the sky's still clear. The party went on. My friends kept laughing and playing. The music kept thumping. But me? I kept my eyes on Karen's house. She'd called 911. She'd smirked at me. She thought she'd won. But she didn't know she'd just messed with the wrong graduate. Oh no, Karen was about to find out she wasn't as smart as she thought. Hang on tight, because this night was about to get wild. The music kept playing in my backyard, but it didn't feel the same anymore. The big, happy beats boom, boom, boom were still there, but now they sounded a little shaky, like the party was holding its breath. Everyone was on edge. My friends weren't laughing as loud. The water balloons weren't flying anymore. Even the pizzas smelled less yummy. It was all because of Karen. She stood there, right by the fence, her phone pressed tight to her ear. She was barking at the 911 operator like an angry dog. Yes, it's an emergency, she yelled, her voice sharp and loud. These kids are out of control. Send someone now. I stood there, my sneakers stuck to the grass, listening to her. She was making stuff up big, fat lies. They're screaming, she said. They're breaking things. What? No way. We were just dancing and eating pizza. Nobody was screaming, unless you counted Mike yelling woo, when he threw a water balloon. And breaking things. The only thing breaking was my heart, because this was supposed to be my big graduation night. Karen was turning it into a mess. I could hear her exaggerating, her words spilling out fast like she couldn't wait to get us in trouble. My hands balled up into fists. I wanted to shout back, but my throat felt all tight. My friends were watching her too. Sarah's mouth was open, like she couldn't believe it. Joey kicked a rock and muttered, "She's lying." Mike was next to me, his arms crossed. He leaned over and whispered, "She's nuts, Jake. Don't worry." But I was worried. Karen's voice was so loud, cutting through the music like a knife. She sounded so sure of herself, like she knew the police would come running and shut us down. I looked around at my party, the twinkly lights, the pizza boxes, the big speaker blasting songs. It was all so perfect before she started this. Now it felt wobbly, like it could fall apart any second. That's when my mom came out. She hurried through the back door, her apron still tied on from baking cookies. Her hair was a little messy, and her eyes were wide. She must have heard Karen yelling from inside. "What's going on?" she asked, looking at me first, then at Karen. She walked right up to the fence, her hands on her hips like she meant business. "Karen, it's just a party," she said, keeping her voice nice but strong. "They're good kids. Can't you see that?" She smiled a little, trying to calm things down. My mom was the best, she always knew how to fix stuff. I thought maybe, just maybe, Karen would listen to her. But nope. Karen didn't even look at my mom at first. She kept talking into her phone, saying, "Hurry up. It's awful over here." Then she snapped her head around and glared at my mom. "You don't tell me what to do on my street," she barked. Her voice was mean, like a growl. My mom's smile dropped. She blinked, surprised, and took a tiny step back. "Karen, come on," she said, softer this time. "It's Jake's graduation. Let them have fun." But Karen shook her head hard, her messy hair bouncing. "No," she shouted. "They're too loud, and I'm done with it." She turned back to her phone, yelling even louder. "Yes, send the police now." My stomach twisted into a big knot. My mom looked at me, her eyes all sad and worried. I shrugged, like, I don't know what to do. She sighed and walked back to the house, her shoulders all droopy. I felt bad for her. She'd worked so hard to make this party awesome, baking cookies, hanging lights, even letting us use the big speaker. And now Karen was ruining it for her too. I glared at Karen, standing there in her fuzzy slippers and bathrobe. She looked silly, but she didn't act silly. She acted like she owned everything, the street, the night, even my party. The music kept going thump, 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 but my friends were quieter now. Sarah sat down on the grass, picking at a flower. Joey tossed the football up and caught it, over and over, not smiling anymore. Mike stayed by me, kicking at the dirt. "She's such a grump," he said. Why does she hate fun? I didn't know. I'd never known. Karen had been grumpy my whole life, yelling about my bike, my ball, my lawnmower. But this was next level grumpy. Calling the police on my party? That was war. I watched her, standing there with her phone, her smirk growing bigger. She thought she'd won. She thought the cops would roll in, lights flashing, and tell us all to go home. I could picture it, sirens wailing, my friends grabbing their stuff, my mom crying inside. It made me mad, but it also made me scared. What if she was right? What if they did come? My big night would be over, just like that. I took a deep breath and tried to shake it off. The air smelled like pizza and grass, but it didn't cheer me up anymore. Then I noticed something weird. My eyes flicked away from Karen for a second, down the street. There was a car parked there, a police car. It was just sitting at the end of the block, quiet and dark. No lights flashing, no sirens, nothing. Just sitting there. I squinted, trying to see better. The street lights were dim, but I could make out the shape, white with black stripes, like every cop car I'd ever seen. My heart skipped a beat. Were they here already? Had Karen's call gone through that fast? I looked back at her, still yelling into her phone. Yes, it's an emergency, she said again. But if the cops were already here, why weren't they coming over? I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I was seeing things. It was dark out, after all. Maybe it was just some random car. But no, it was definitely a police car. I could see the little antennas on top, the big bumper in front. It was parked under a tree, half hidden by shadows. Weird. Really weird. Had they been watching us? My party? I tried to think back, had I seen that car before? Maybe when the sun was still up? I couldn't remember. Everything had been so busy, friends showing up, music starting, pizza everywhere. I hadn't been looking at the street. But then a thought hit me like a water balloon to the face. What if they weren't watching us? What if they were watching her? Karen. My brain started spinning. No way, right? She was just a grumpy old lady who hated noise. Why would the police care about her? But that car, it was so quiet, so sneaky. Like it didn't want to be seen. I looked at Karen again. She was still on her phone, waving her free hand around like she was directing traffic. They're ruining my night, she shouted. Get here fast. She didn't even glance down the street. She had no idea that car was there. I didn't say anything yet. My friends were still moping around, and I didn't want to freak them out. But my gut, oh man, my gut was talking to me. It was that feeling you get when you know something's up, like when you hear a creak in the house at night and wonder if it's a ghost. This night was about to flip upside down. I could feel it in my bones. Karen kept yelling, her voice all high and whiny now. I can't sleep. I can't think. These kids are a nightmare. Lies, lies, lies. We weren't a nightmare. She was. That's when I saw something else, a shadow. Not the police car this time, but something closer. It moved near Karen's yard, right by her big bushes. It was quick, like a cat darting by, but bigger. My eyes went wide. What was that? I leaned forward, trying to see. The bushes rustled a little, shh, but Karen didn't notice. She was too busy barking at the 911 operator. Yes, I'm serious, she said. Send someone right now. The shadow stopped moving, and everything went still again. My heart was thumping loud, thump, 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 like it wanted to jump out of my chest. I nudged Mike. Hey, I whispered, pointing at the bushes. Did you see that? He squinted, his eyebrows all scrunched up. See what? He asked. Over there, I said, keeping my voice low. Something moved. He looked for a second, then shrugged. Probably a squirrel, man. Chill out. But it wasn't a squirrel. Squirrels don't move like that, slow and sneaky. This was different. I kept staring, waiting for it to move again. Nothing. Just the bushes, dark and quiet under Karen's porch light. My mind was racing now. The police car down the street. The shadow in the bushes. Karen yelling her head off. Something was connecting, like puzzle pieces clicking together, But I couldn't see the whole picture yet. I took a step closer to the fence, my sneakers crunching on the grass. Karen's voice was still loud, but I tuned it out for a second. I wanted to figure this out. Were the cops really here already? And if they were, why were they hiding? And that shadow, what was it? My gut kept whispering, "Pay attention, Jake. Something's coming." The music snapped me back. Sarah had turned it up again, trying to bring the party back to life. "Come on, guys," she yelled, clapping her hands. "Don't let her ruin it." Joey grabbed the football and tossed it to Tim. "Yeah, let's play," he said. Mike grinned at me. "See? We're fine. She's just loud." I nodded, but I didn't feel fine. I forced a smile and picked up a water balloon, pretending to join in. Splash! I threw it at Mike, and it hit his leg. "Hey," he laughed, grabbing one to throw back. For a minute, it felt normal again: wet shirts, goofy yells, music thumping. But my eyes kept sneaking back to Karen. She was pacing now, back and forth by the fence, her slippers slapping the ground. Slap, slap, slap. She waved her phone around, still talking. "Yes, I'm waiting," she said. "Where are you?" She sounded annoyed, like the police weren't fast enough for her. I almost laughed. She was so mad, so sure she was winning. But that police car down the street, it wasn't moving. No lights, no noise. Just sitting there. And that shadow? It was gone now, but I couldn't forget it. Something was creeping closer to her yard, and she didn't even know. I tossed another water balloon, missing Mike this time. He ran after me, laughing, and we ended up in a pile on the grass. "Gotcha," he yelled, pinning me down. I wiggled free and sat up, catching my breath. The party was picking up again: friends dancing, food disappearing, lights twinkling. My mom came out with the cookies, and everyone cheered. "Thanks, Mom," I called. She waved and went back inside. It should have felt great. But my gut wouldn't let me relax. That car. That shadow. Karen's smirk. It was all adding up to something. I stood up, brushing grass off my jeans, and looked at Karen again. She'd stopped pacing. Now she was just standing there, phone to her ear, tapping her foot like she was counting the seconds. "Hurry up," she snapped. She didn't see the police car. She didn't see the shadow. She was too busy trying to ruin my night. But me? I saw it all. And I knew deep down, I knew this wasn't going to end the way she thought. Something big was coming. Something sneaky. Something she'd never expect. The music kept playing. My friends kept laughing. But I stayed on edge, watching, waiting. Karen had no clue she was walking right into her own trap. And me? I was about to find out just how wild this night could get. Hang on, because the surprises were only starting. The party was still going, but everything felt shaky now. The music was thumping: boom, 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 like a heartbeat in the dark. My friends were trying to have fun, tossing water balloons and munching on cookies my mom brought out. But we were all watching Karen. She was standing by the fence, her phone still in her hand, her fuzzy slippers glowing pink under her porch light. She'd just called 911, yelling about how loud we were, how bad we were. She thought she was winning. She thought the police were coming to shut my graduation party down. Oh man, was she wrong. Suddenly, headlights flashed. Bright, white lights cut through the night, lighting up the street like a big spotlight. My heart jumped thump. I spun around, and there it was, the police car I'd seen parked down the block. It wasn't quiet anymore. The engine growled, and the lights blinked on, shining right at us. Two doors popped open, click, click, and two officers stepped out. They were tall, wearing dark uniforms with shiny badges. Their boots hit the ground, thud, thud, and they started walking straight toward us. I froze. My soda can slipped in my hand, all sweaty now. Were they really here? Because of Karen's call? My friends stopped too. Mike dropped a water balloon, splash, and it burst on the grass. Sarah's mouth opened, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Joey grabbed the football and held it tight, staring. The music kept playing, but it felt far away, like it was coming from another world. All I could hear was my heartbeat: thump, 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 and those boots getting closer, thud, thud, thud. Karen saw them too. Her face lit up, like she'd just won $1 million. She clapped her hands together, clap, and crowed, finally. Her voice was loud and happy, bouncing off the fence. She pointed at me, her finger shaking a little. "Arrest these brats," she shouted. "They're ruining everything. Take them away." She bounced on her toes, her slippers squeaking, her bathrobe flapping. That smirk was back, big and mean. She thought this was it. She thought the cops were here for us. She thought my party was done. I swallowed hard. My throat felt dry, like I'd eaten a whole bag of crackers. Arrest us? For what? Playing music? Eating pizza? Having fun? I looked at my friends. Mike's eyes were wide, Sarah's hands were on her cheeks, Joey's jaw was tight. My mom came out of the house again, wiping her hands on her apron. "What's happening?" she called, her voice all wobbly. She saw the cops and stopped, her face going pale. I wanted to run to her, tell her it was okay, but my feet wouldn't move. I just stood there, watching, waiting. But then, oh man, then it happened. The cops didn't stop at my party. They didn't even look at me. Nope. They marched right past us, thud, 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 straight toward Karen. Their faces were serious, like stone. Their boots crunched on the gravel by the fence, loud and steady. Karen's smirk vanished. Poof. Gone, like someone flipped a switch. Her eyes got big, round like dinner plates. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. What's this?" she stammered. Her voice wasn't loud anymore. It was small, shaky, like a little kid who got caught sneaking cookies. The first cop stopped right in front of her. He was tall, with short hair and a deep voice. "Ma'am," he said, all firm and strong, "we need to speak with you. Now." He didn't yell, but he didn't have to. His words hit like a hammer, bang. The crowd went silent. Dead silent. The music was still going, thump, 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 but no one cared. My friends stopped moving. My mom stopped breathing, I think. Me. I couldn't believe it. The cops weren't here for us. They were here for her. Karen blinked fast, like her brain couldn't catch up. She clutched her phone tight, holding it up like a shield. "Me," she said, her voice squeaky now. "This is about them, not me." She pointed at me again, her finger wobbling. "They're the ones making noise. They're the problem. I called you." She waved her phone, her bathrobe swinging. She looked so confused, so mad, like this wasn't part of her plan. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. The second cop stepped up. He was shorter, with a mustache, and he was holding something, a piece of paper. He held it out, right in front of Karen's face. "Karen Daniels," he said, slow and clear, "you're under arrest for fraud and theft." Fraud? Theft? What? My jaw dropped plop, right to the ground. My friends gasped loud, like a big wind blowing through. "No way." Mike whispered. "What?" Sarah squeaked. Joey's football fell out of his hands, thud, and rolled away. My mom put her hand over her mouth, her eyes huge. Karen's face went white. Like, ghost white. She shook her head fast. "No, no, no," she said. "That's wrong. I didn't do anything." But the cop wasn't done. He kept talking, his voice steady. "We been tracking you for weeks," he said. He shook the paper, "a warrant," he called it. "That's a special paper that says the police can arrest you. You've been stealing from the HOA," he said. "Taking money, lying about repairs, keeping cash that's not yours." My brain exploded. Karen. A criminal? No way. She was just the grumpy lady next door, the one who yelled about trash cans and bikes. But stealing? Scamming? That was big stuff. I looked at her, standing there in her silly slippers, and it started to sink in. Turns out, she'd been bad for years. The HOA, that's the group that makes neighborhood rules, gave her money to fix things, like the playground or the streetlights. But she didn't fix anything. Nope. She kept the money for herself, stuffed it in her pockets like a sneaky thief. She'd been lying to everyone, pretending to be the boss, when really, She was a crook. The best part? Oh man, this was the best part. The cops had planned to catch her tonight. Tonight? They'd been watching her for weeks sneaking around, collecting proof, waiting for the right moment. And my party? My loud, awesome graduation party? It just gave her an excuse to come out and make a scene. She thought she was calling the cops on me, but really, she walked right into their trap. How's that for a twist? Bet you didn't see it coming, huh? Karen's hands shook. Her phone slipped and fell thunk, onto the grass. She stared at the cops, her mouth flapping like a fish. This is a mistake, she yelled. I'm not a thief. I'm a good person. But the cops didn't listen. The tall one grabbed her arm, not hard, just firm. Let's go, ma'am, he said. The mustache cop picked up her phone and put it in his pocket. You can explain at the station, he said. They started walking her toward the car. Thud, 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 her slippers dragging on the ground. My friends went wild. Whoa! Mike shouted, jumping up and down. She's busted. Sarah clapped her hands, clap, 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 and laughed. Serves her right. Joey ran over to me, grinning big. Dude, did you know? He asked. I shook my head, still stunned. No way, I said. I thought she was just mean. My mom came over, her eyes all shiny. Oh, Jake, she said, hugging me tight. I can't believe it. The crowd, my friends, my family, even some neighbors who'd peeked out watched as the cops led Karen away. She kept yelling, her voice getting smaller. This is wrong. You've got the wrong person. But nobody believed her. Not anymore. The police car doors opened, click, click, and they helped her inside. Her bathrobe got caught for a second, and she tripped. Oops, but they got her in. The lights flashed again, red, blue, and the engine started. Vroom. I stood there, my jaw still on the ground. Karen. A criminal? It was like a movie, a crazy, wild movie I didn't know I was in. My party wasn't ruined. Nope. It just got better. The cops weren't here for me, they were here for her. All that time she'd been yelling at us, bossing us around, she was the one doing bad stuff. And now she was caught. Caught big time. My friends crowded around me, all talking at once. That was insane. Mike said, slapping my back. She's going to jail. Sarah giggled, twirling her hair. I knew she was trouble. Joey picked up his football and tossed it high. Best party ever, he yelled. I laughed finally, a real laugh. The knot in my stomach was gone. Poof. Just like that. Karen thought she'd won, but she lost. Big time. The police car pulled away, vroom, the lights flashing down the street. Karen's face was in the window, all red and mad, but she couldn't do anything now. She was done. My mom hugged me again. I'm so proud of you, Jake, she said. This is still your night. I hugged her back, grinning. She was right. It was my night. And Karen? She just made it unforgettable. The music kept playing, boom, 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 and my friends started dancing again. The pizza smelled good again. The lights twinkled brighter. My party was back, bigger and better than ever. And Karen? She was off to face the music, her own music, not mine. What a twist. What a night. I couldn't wait to tell everyone at school. How's that for a graduation story? Bet you didn't expect that, huh? Karen's face turned red, bright red, like a fire truck when the cops put the cuffs on her. Click, click. The shiny metal snapped around her wrists, and she looked like she couldn't believe it. Her eyes got all big, and her mouth twisted up. This is a mistake, she shrieked, her voice loud and high, like a siren going off. She yanked her arms, trying to pull away, but the cops held on tight. The tall one with the deep voice shook his head. No mistake, ma'am, he said, all calm and steady. The shorter cop with the mustache nodded. We've got proof, he said, holding up that warrant paper. Karen's fuzzy slippers dragged on the grass as she wiggled, but the cops weren't buying her story. Not one bit. My backyard was quiet for a second, super quiet. The music was still playing, boom, 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 but nobody was talking. My friends, my mom, even the neighbors who'd poked their heads out, all of us were staring. Karen kept yelling, her voice bouncing off the fence. I didn't do anything, she cried. You've got the wrong person. But nobody moved. The cops just kept walking her toward their car. Thud, 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 their boots loud on the ground. Her bathrobe flapped around her legs, and one slipper almost fell off. Plop, but she kicked it back on. She looked so mad, so scared, like a trapped animal. Then she turned her head and glared at me. Oh man, that glare. Her eyes were like little fireballs, burning right through me. She pointed one cuffed hand my way, well, as much as she could with the cuffs on, and hissed, "This is your fault." Her voice was all shaky now, not so loud anymore. I blinked. My fault? No way. I didn't plan this. I was just having a party, my graduation party, with pizza and music and water balloons. She's the one who called 911, thinking she'd ruin my night. Nope, Karen, you did this to yourself. All by yourself. The cops tugged her along, not even looking at me. They didn't care about her glare or her yelling. They had their job to do. The tall cop opened the car door creak, and the mustache cop helped her in. Watch your head, he said, all serious. Karen ducked, but she kept muttering, "This is wrong, this is wrong." The door slammed shut, bang, and there she was, stuck in the back seat. Her face pressed against the window, all red and sweaty, her hair a big mess. She looked at me one more time, like she wanted to zap me with her eyes. But I just stood there, my sneakers in the grass, my soda can warm in my hand. I didn't feel scared anymore. I felt good. That's when the whispering started. My neighbors, people I'd known forever, were peeking out from their porches and windows. Old Mr. Jenkins from across the street was there, leaning on his cane. Mrs. Lopez next door had her little dog yapping woof, woof, but she shushed it quick. They were all talking, low and fast, like bees buzzing. I knew it, Mr. Jenkins said, his voice crackly. She's been sneaky for years. Mrs. Lopez nodded, her eyes big. I thought something was up, she said. All that HOA money, where'd it go? Turns out, lots of people had suspected Karen. They'd wondered why the playground never got fixed, why the streetlights flickered, why the neighborhood dues kept going up. But they never had proof until now. I listened, my ears perked up like a puppy's. Karen had been scamming the HOA, stealing cash, lying about repairs, keeping it all for herself. That's what the cops said, fraud and theft. Big words, but simple stuff. She took money that wasn't hers. My neighbor Tim's dad came over, still in his pajamas. She told us the new benches cost a fortune, he said, shaking his head. But they're falling apart. Sarah's mom chimed in, holding a cup of tea. And the pool, she said it was cleaned, but it's green. Everybody had a story. Karen had fooled them all, acting like the boss, when really, she was a thief. The cops didn't wait around. They climbed into their car, click, click, the doors shutting fast. The engine roared to life, vroom, and the lights flashed again, red, blue, red, blue. My friends started moving, like they'd just woken up. Mike ran over, his eyes huge. Dude, he yelled, slapping my back. She's going to jail. Sarah bounced up, clapping her hands, clap, clap, clap. She's done, she squealed. Joey tossed his football high and caught it. Busted, he shouted. The party? Oh man, it roared back to life, louder than ever. I turned to my mom. She was standing by the picnic table, her apron all flowery, her smile coming back. Jake, she said, rushing over. She grabbed my hand and gave me a big high five smack. Can you believe it? She asked, laughing a little. I shook my head, grinning. Nope. I said. She thought she'd get us, but bam, she got herself. My mom hugged me tight, her arms warm. This is still your night, she said. Don't let her take that away. I hugged her back, my heart all light and happy. She was right. Karen was gone, and my party was mine again. Someone yelled loud and wild, best graduation ever. I looked over, and it was Tim, my cousin. He was jumping up and down, his arms flapping like a bird. Everybody cheered woohoo, and the music got louder, boom, boom, boom. Mike grabbed a water balloon and threw it splash, hitting Joey right in the chest. Hey! Joey laughed, grabbing one back. Sarah cranked the speaker up, and a new song blasted out fast and fun. My friends started dancing, spinning around, their wet shoes squeaking on the grass. The pizza smelled good again, the cookies were disappearing, and the lights twinkled like they were celebrating too. I stood there for a second, just watching. The police car rolled down the street vroom, the lights flashing all pretty in the dark. Karen was in the back, her face still pressed to the window, but she wasn't glaring anymore. She looked small, like she'd shrunk. The tall cop waved at us, his hand big and slow as they drove off. The mustache cop waved too, a little smile on his face. I waved back, my arm high. Thanks. I shouted, even though they probably couldn't hear me. They'd saved my night, saved it big time. The crowd went nuts. My friends ran over, all talking at once. That was crazy. Mike said, his hair all messy from the water balloons. She's a crook. Sarah giggled, twirling around. I can't wait to tell everyone. Joey punched the air. She's toast, he yelled. I laughed big, loud laughs that shook my whole body. The knot in my stomach? Gone. The worry? Poof. My party was back, and it was better than ever. Karen thought she'd ruin it, but she just made it epic. My mom brought out more cookies, chocolate chip, still warm, and everybody grabbed one. To Jake, she said, holding up a cookie like a toast. To Jake, my friends shouted, crumbs flying everywhere. I took a big bite, yum, and grinned. The night was warm, the stars were out, and the music filled the air. We danced, we ate, we threw more water balloons, splash, splash, splash. Tim started a conga line, da-da-da, and we all joined in, kicking our legs and laughing like crazy. The neighbors didn't go back inside. Nope. They stayed, watching, smiling. Mr. Jenkins hobbled over, his cane tapping the ground, tap, tap, tap. Good job, kid, he said, his wrinkly face all crinkly with a grin. She had it coming. Mrs. Lopez came too, her dog still yapping woof, woof. Finally, she said, petting her pup. No more HOA nonsense. Even Tim's dad joined us, eating a slice of pizza. She's been a pain forever, he said, chewing loud. Glad she's gone. I looked around my yard, my friends, my family, my neighbors. Everybody was happy. Karen was gone, off to jail or wherever cops take people like her. She couldn't boss us around anymore. No more yelling about trash cans. No more glaring over the fence. No more sneaky stealing. She was done for good. And me? I was the king of this night. My graduation party wasn't just a party now, it was a legend. The clock hit midnight ding, but nobody cared. We kept going. Mike and Joey started a water balloon war, splash, splash, soaking everybody. Sarah danced with my mom, spinning her around until they both fell over, giggling. I grabbed a soda fizz, and chugged it, the cold bubbles tickling my throat. The music switched to my favorite song fast and loud, and I jumped in, dancing like a goofball. My sneakers were wet, my shirt was sticky, but I didn't care. This was my night, and it was perfect. By morning, the whole neighborhood knew. Word spread fast like wildfire. My phone buzzed, buzz with texts from friends who weren't even there. Karen got arrested, one said. Your party's famous, another wrote. I grinned, showing my mom. She laughed and ruffled my hair. You're a hero, Jake, she said. I didn't feel like a hero, just a kid who threw a party. But I guess I was something. I'd stood up to Karen not with fists or yells, but just by being me. And she'd tripped right over herself. The sun came up pink and gold over the trees, and the party finally slowed down. My friends flopped on the grass, all tired and happy. Pizza boxes were empty, cookie trays were bare, and the speaker was quiet. My mom yawned, stretching her arms. Time for bed, she said, smiling. I nodded, but I wasn't sleepy yet. I sat on the picnic table, looking at Karen's house. It was dark now, no lights, no noise. She was really gone. I thought about everything, her yelling, the cops, the cuffs, the cheers. It was wild. Crazy wild. My graduation night wasn't just about me finishing school anymore. It was about justice. Karen had been mean for years, bossing people, Stealing money, ruining fun. But not this time. This time, she got caught. She faced the music, her own music, and we all got to watch. Justice served, big time. My friends waved as they left bye-bye, their voices sleepy but happy. Best night ever, Mike said, yawning. See ya, hero, Sarah called, giggling. Joey gave me a thumbs up. Epic, he said. I waved back, my arm heavy but my heart light. My mom locked the back door click, and we went inside. The house was quiet, but it felt good. I flopped on my bed, still in my wet clothes, and smiled at the ceiling. I did it. I had my party. And Karen? She was history. This story? Oh man, it's one nobody will ever top. Not my friends, not my cousins, not anybody. By morning, the neighborhood was buzzing Karen's name on everybody's lips. HOA Karen was done for, and I was the kid who threw the party that took her down. Not on purpose, but still it happened. And me? I got the best graduation ever. A night of pizza, music, and justice. How's that for a happy ending? Looking back, that night taught me something big. Really big. Like, huge. It was my graduation party, the night with the pizza, the music, the water balloons, and, oh yeah, Karen getting hauled off by the cops. What a night, right? I still think about it all the time, how it started so fun, then got all shaky, and then bam, turned into the wildest thing ever. And when I think about it, I see stuff I didn't see before. Stuff that makes me smile, stuff that makes me think, stuff that makes me want to tell everybody what I learned. See, that night wasn't just about pizza and dancing, though those were awesome. It wasn't just about Karen getting caught, though that was super cool. It was about something deeper. Something that sticks with me, like gum on your shoe, but in a good way. I learned that sometimes, the loudest people, the ones who yell the most, boss everybody around, and act like they're the king or queen of everything, are hiding stuff. Big stuff. Sneaky stuff. Stuff they don't want you to know. Take Karen, for example. She was loud, oh man, was she loud. She stood by that fence, yelling at us, waving her phone, calling 911 like she was saving the world. You kids are too loud, she shouted. I've had enough. She acted like she was in charge, like she owned the whole neighborhood. Her voice was big, her glare was mean, and her fuzzy slippers. Well, they were loud in their own way. Slap, slap, slap on the grass. She thought she was the boss. She thought she could ruin my night, my big graduation moment, because she didn't like the music or the laughter or the fun. But here's the thing, she wasn't the boss. Nope. She was hiding something. Something huge. All that yelling, all that grumpiness, all those times she'd bossed us around for years, it was a cover-up. A big, sneaky trick. Turns out, Karen was a thief. She'd been stealing money from the HOA cash that was supposed to fix the playground, clean the pool, make the neighborhood nice. But she didn't use it for that. Nope. She kept it for herself, stuffed it in her pockets like a squirrel hiding nuts. She was loud to scare people away, to make them think she was important, so nobody would look too close and see what she was really doing. And me? I didn't know any of that. Not at first. I just thought she was grumpy about my bike when I was little, grumpy about my ball going over her fence, grumpy about my party being loud. I thought she hated fun. But it was more than that. She was hiding her secret, and she was good at it until that night. That night, she tried to ruin my moment. She called the cops, smirking like she'd won, thinking she'd shut us down. But instead, bam, she showed everyone who she really was. The cops came, not for me, but for her. They cuffed her, click, click, and took her away, and her secret spilled out like water from a busted balloon. So here's what I learned: when someone's loud like that, when they're always trying to push you down or boss you around, maybe they're scared. Maybe they've got something to hide. Maybe they're not as strong as they pretend. Karen was loud, but she wasn't strong. She was sneaky, but she wasn't smart enough to keep it going forever. And when she tried to bring me down, tried to stop my party, my big night, she tripped over herself. She fell, not me. She showed the whole neighborhood her real face, not the bossy HOA lady, but the sneaky thief who'd been caught. That makes me smile now. Back then, I was scared, my heart was thumping, My stomach was all twisty, thinking the cops would shut us down. But they didn't. They took her away, and my party roared back to life louder, better, crazier than before. My friends cheered woohoo, my mom high-fived me smack, and we danced until the sun came up. Karen thought she'd win, but she lost. Big time. And me? I won. Not because I planned it, I didn't, but because I didn't let her scare me off. I kept going, and she fell. So here's my advice, something I want you to remember, okay? Next time someone tries to bring you down, just smile. Yep, smile. Maybe they're yelling at you, saying mean stuff, acting like they're better than you. Maybe they're loud, like Karen, pointing fingers and making a fuss. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it stop your fun, your moment, your big day. Just smile, because you never know, they might be the ones about to fall. They might be hiding something, and one day, it'll come out, just like it did for Karen. And when it does, you'll be the one standing tall, still smiling, still having your party. That night taught me to keep going, even when stuff gets tough. It taught me that the loudest voices aren't always the strongest. It taught me that justice, fairness wins in the end, even if it takes a while. Karen had been sneaky for years, fooling everybody, but that night, justice showed up, 2 cops, a warrant, and a big, fat gotcha. She couldn't run from it. She couldn't yell her way out. And we all got to see it, me, my friends, my mom, the neighbors. We saw her fall, and we saw the truth come out. That's a big deal. A cool deal. A deal that makes you feel good inside. I think about that a lot. Like, what if I'd given up? What if I'd turned off the music when she started yelling? What if I'd told my friends to go home, scared of her 911 call? My night would have been over, sad, quiet, ruined. But I didn't give up. I stayed, my friends stayed, and we kept going. And because we did, we got to see something amazing: Karen getting caught, justice winning, my party turning into a story nobody will ever forget. That's power, right? Not loud power like Karen's yelling, but quiet power, sticking it out, keeping your head up, smiling through the mess. Sometimes I wonder what Karen's thinking now. Is she mad? Is she sorry? Is she sitting somewhere, still in that bathrobe, wishing she'd been nicer? I don't know. I don't really care, either. She made her choice, she yelled, she stole, she tried to ruin my night. And she lost. That's on her. Me. I'm just happy I got my party, my friends, my big win. I'm happy I learned something I can carry with me forever, like a little treasure in my pocket. Life's funny like that. You think it's going one way: pizza, music, fun, and then bam, it twists. Karen twisted it, but it twisted right back on her. And me? I got to see it all. I got to dance through it, laugh through it, cheer through it. My graduation wasn't just about finishing school anymore. It was about beating the grump, watching justice win, and knowing I could handle anything. That's a big lesson, bigger than math or spelling or anything I learned in class. It's a lesson about people, about loudness, about truth. So yeah, that night was wild. Pizza boxes piled high, water balloons flying splash, music blasting boom, boom, boom. And then Karen, yelling her head off, thinking she'd stop us. But she didn't. The cops came, thud, 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 cuffed her, click, click, and drove her away. Vroom. My friends cheered, my mom hugged me, and the neighborhood buzzed. It was my night, my win, my story. And it taught me something I'll never forget: the loud ones, the mean ones, the ones who push you down, they don't always win. Sometimes, they fall. And when they do, you're still standing, smiling, ready for whatever's next. Thanks for sticking with me, friends. I mean it, you're the best for listening to this crazy tale. It's a long one, right? All that pizza, all that yelling, all that justice, it's a lot. But I hope you liked it. I hope it made you laugh, made you cheer, maybe even made you think a little. What's your favorite part? Was it the water balloon splash, or Karen's face when the cops showed up? Was it the cheering woohoo, or the cookies my mom made? Drop it in the comments below, I wanna know. I read every single one, and it makes me smile big. This isn't goodbye, okay? I'll see you in the next one, another story, another adventure, another wild ride. Maybe it'll be about something silly, like a goofy dog, or something big, like this. Who knows? But I'll be back, and I hope you will too. Keep smiling, keep having fun, and remember what I said: when someone's loud and mean, just smile. They might be the ones about to fall. See ya soon, pals. Okay, let's dig even deeper. That night it's like a treasure chest in my brain, full of shiny stuff I keep pulling out. Every time I think about it, I find something new. Like, how did it feel when the cops drove away vroom, and my party came back? It felt like a big breath, whoosh, like I'd been holding it in forever and finally let it go. That's what winning feels like, I guess. Not winning a game or a race, but winning against something tough like Karen's grumpiness, her yelling, her sneaky tricks. I remember standing there, watching that police car roll down the street. The lights red, blue were so bright, like fireworks just for us. My friends were jumping hop, 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 and shouting woohoo, like we'd scored a touchdown. My mom was next to me, her arm around my shoulders, her laugh all soft and happy. The air smelled like pizza and wet grass, and the stars were twinkling twinkle, twinkle like they were winking at me. It was my night again, and nobody could take it away. That's another thing I learned: your moment is yours. Karen tried to steal mine. She tried to make my graduation about her rules, her noise, her 911 call. But she couldn't. Why? Because I didn't let her. I didn't turn off the music, boom, boom, boom. I didn't send my friends home bye-bye. I didn't stop smiling even when my stomach was all twisty. I kept going. And that's what kept it mine. You've got moments too: big ones, little ones, silly ones. Don't let anybody take them. They're yours, and you're strong enough to hold onto them. I think about my friends a lot when I remember that night. Mike, with his big, goofy laugh, ha, 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 kept me from freaking out. She's just jealous, he said, munching pizza like nothing was wrong. Sarah, with her bouncy steps, turned the music louder: thump, 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 to drown out Karen's yelling. Joey, tossing that football wish, kept the fun alive, even when the cops showed up. They didn't run. They didn't hide. They stayed, and that made it all okay. Friends are like glue: they stick with you, hold you together, make the messy stuff less scary. And my mom, oh man, my mom. She's the real hero, if you ask me. She made cookies yum, hung lights twinkle, twinkle, and let us be loud. When Karen started yelling, she tried to fix it: Karen, it's just a party. And when it all went wild, she hugged me tight. She didn't care about the mess: pizza boxes everywhere, wet grass, loud music. She cared about me. That's what moms do, right? They're there, cheering you on, even when grumpy neighbors call the cops. I'm lucky to have her, and that night made me see it even more. The neighbors too, they surprised me. Old Mr. Jenkins, with his slow walk, tap, 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 came out in his robe, grinning. About time, he said, like he'd been waiting for Karen to get caught. Mrs. Lopez, with her little dog Woof, Woof, laughed and said, good riddance. They'd been mad at Karen for years, mad about the money, the lies, the bossy stuff. But they didn't know how to stop her. That night, they didn't have to. The cops did it: click, click, and we all got to cheer. It was like a team win, not just for me, but for everybody. That's what's so cool about it. One night, one crazy, loud, messy night brought us all together. Me, my friends, my mom, the neighbors. We were on the same side, watching Karen fall. It wasn't mean, though. It wasn't about hating her. It was about fairness. She did wrong: stole money, lied, tried to ruin my fun, and she got caught. That's how it should be. Fairness wins. Justice wins. And we all got to see it, like a big show with pizza and music as the snacks. I keep thinking, what if it didn't happen that way? What if the cops didn't come for her? What if she'd won, and my party got shut down? I'd be sad, sure. I'd be mad, too. But I'd still have my friends, my mom, my smile. That's the real power: not the loud stuff, not the yelling, not even the cops. It's the quiet stuff, the stuff inside you that keeps going, no matter what. Karen didn't have that. She had noise, but not strength. Me. I had both, even if I didn't know it then. So yeah, that night was a gift. A big, wild, messy gift wrapped in pizza boxes and water balloons splash. It gave me a story, my best story, and it gave me lessons. Lessons about loud people, about hiding, about smiling through the tough stuff. I'll carry those forever, like little stars in my pocket, twinkle, twinkle. And you can carry them too. Next time someone's loud and mean, think of Karen. Think of her slippers slap, slap, and her red face when the cops said, "You're done." Think of me, smiling, dancing, winning. You can win too. Thanks again, friends. You're the coolest for sticking with this tale all the way from the pizza to the cops to this big, long ending. I hope it made you laugh and cheer woohoo, and maybe even feel a little stronger. What's your favorite part? Tell me, drop it below. I love reading what you say. And I'll see you next time. More stories, more fun, more us. Keep smiling, pals, you're awesome.